Tuesday morning running back. I'm your host, Matt Forte, here with my guy, Jason Romano, and a crazy weekend of football as
Whew.
always, and a lot to talk about, both in the games, decisions by teams after games. There's breaking news. There's crazy
Injuries.
games. There's injuries. Man, there's just so much to talk about. But hey, I'm still
You're still
waving my
repping.
rally towel.
Let's go.
I'm not using this for tears. I'm still happy, proud of my boys, the Bears. I got the hat on. It's Bear down
Yeah.
all day still.
You went to the game, and it's one of the craziest playoff games I've watched. And Matt, when Caleb threw that touchdown to Cole Kmet, I'm at my house. I'm by myself. My wife's with her mother this weekend. I screamed. I might have woken up the three houses around me. It was so loud. I couldn't believe he caught it. You were there. You got to
Yeah,
tell us what that experience was like.
man, I almost lost my voice when that happened. Because you look at a fourth down, and it's a gotta have it moment. There seemed to be in the perfect distance to where it doesn't have to be a Hail Mary, where there's you know 7 DBs in the end zone, and you're like likely not to get it. But as a regular play is called in order to get the first down.
4th to 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then once he starts to scramble and go backwards, I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. It's over with. And how many times can you make these comebacks and these throws? Like the last week fourth down play was insane.
Against Green Bay.
And then
Yeah.
this one, the way he basically the DB, he could see. Like, think about how fast you have to process this in your brain. You're running away from trouble, actually spins out of the pocket, and then goes back the other way. Your back's turned towards the defense. As soon as you turn around and you can see, okay, DB's back is turned, I'm going to throw this in the corner of the end zone. It's that one spot where only he can catch it.
Yeah.
Throws it before Kmet even breaks to that direction. So basically throws him open and is able to trick the DB, and the DB can't find or locate the ball, and boom, touchdown. The crowd went insane. It was insanity. Oh my gosh.
Has to be the loudest one of the loudest crowds you've ever been around, right?
It was
At that moment.
It was a great experience. I wish I would have been recording myself in that
Yeah.
moment, because it was just, oh man, it was just super exciting. And
The whole game was really, really
yeah,
fascinating, right? Because the Bears, they start off, they play well. The Rams are kind of hanging in, but the Rams aren't running their normal offense. They aren't taking shots down the field. And I thought the Bears defense was phenomenal in that game. It was a really interesting game, but Ben Johnson kind of going for it on fourth down a few times. He's done this all throughout the season, and they left some points out there. And then the pick, that Caleb threw in overtime, which was, as great as that throw was to Kmet, which we'll be talking about for years. Then you had the pick. And I just kind of felt like, oh man, if they just got one or two more first downs, they're winning that game.
Yeah, this is a interesting the way that whole I guess that whole segment went, because everybody's gonna focus on the end of the game, that pick, or the three picks, the total. And when you look at the statistics of NFL football in general, but NFL football, your chances of winning, or your victory chances, drastically change between 1 and 3 turnovers.
Yes.
There's been games where we've had 1 or 2 turnovers and we've actually won and came back in a miracle type of situation. But when it's 3 of them, it's very hard to win the game. And they still were very close to winning that game. And it'll give credit to the Rams. That's a solid team, very well coached, solid team. They can run the ball when they need to, in certain situations, like playing in 15 degrees, and then the way they have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, and they're making catches, and their tight ends are doing good work out there, and their defense is solid too.
They got a good defense.
Their defensive backfield came through for them in this instance. So, but everybody's gonna focus on that, but really got to look at the large picture. It hurts worse because when you go back and watch the film of all the missed opportunities, and one of those being going for the fourth down early in the game in your first drive down the field, where to get some momentum going, to get the crowd in it too, to go ahead and to get 3 points, you would think, okay, let's make that call. But something with, hindsight's always 2020. If you go for it and you make it on that fourth down, you guys go down and they go down there and they score 7 points.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna say anything. So that's a judgment call that obviously goes either way. And in this today's NFL, back when I played, the fourth down thing was not even fathomable on your side of the field at all. But it was if you were fourth in like inches, fourth and one, or in a gotta have it moment where you gotta go for it.
Right.
So these things are something, and it's I mean, if you look at where Ben comes from with the Lions, I think they went out in the championship game last year on kind of
Two
the
years ago.
same, or
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Against San
with kind of
Francisco.
the same notion of going for it, where they're like, okay, are you going to get points or are you going to go for it?
I was texting my brothers. My brother is a Lions fan. I'm like, Bears coach has a lot of Dan Campbell in him, doesn't he? Like, it's almost like they're very, I mean, and I know that they were together,
Yeah.
but the gambling attitude of if it's 4th and 4, we're getting it. If it's 4th and 2, we're getting it. If it's fourth
Yeah.
and one, we're getting it. It's not even a thought to kick a field goal, but they left at least 6 points on the field with not kicking field goals that were
Yeah.
under 50 yards. So they're very makeable field goals. And I know it was
Yeah.
cold and it was snowy, but the elements weren't that effective in the sense of what was
Yeah.
going on. I mean, guys were kicking field goals, in that game. So it's just, yeah, it is what it is. Like if he gets
Mhm.
those, the Bears probably win and it doesn't go to overtime and everybody says, yep, that's how you do it. But
Mhm.
you live and die with the decisions you make.
That's right. That's right. And those are the things that when you talk about this team, Ben and Caleb, they're going to watch this film together. They're going to go over the things that they could have done, both play calling wise and playing wise and execution. And they're going to learn and grow from that. It's one of those things where in the NFL, as we talked about, there's no moral victories where let's hang our hat on. We played it close. It was a close game, or it was a great game entertainment wise. Like nobody cares about that unless you get the W. And we're going to look back and see, hey, at the goal line, we didn't get enough. We didn't do enough to score. So, we look at it as, man, yeah, they could have kicked the field goal, but if you're that close on the goal line, that's 7 points. We left really 10 points out there
That's a
in
good
that
point.
case.
Yeah.
If you want to be, high powered and your standard is up here. And I think Ben and, Caleb do have that high standard and the whole team. They kind of as the leadership of the team and that aspect. And the defense played great, man. I mean, to hold them to 17 points for the game, and then obviously
The Rams
they
had
kicked the field goal.
8 punts, Matt, 8 times. So I thought the Bears defense played really well in this game.
Yeah, they did. They did. I mean, they came down early on, went right down the field and scored. But after that, they really, were stout on them.
Yes.
And they have a pretty dynamic offense, some talented guys, and the way Sean McVay can call plays too. I mean, Ben. Yeah, I can't say that he's like Ben, but Ben because he was a coach before, Ben, a head coach before Ben, but they're very similar in the schemes and like the knowledge of the game and just knowing when to call certain plays and how to pick defenses apart and certain things like that. But if you look at it, I mean, yeah, they go for it on fourth down and gamble sometimes, but they really played a little bit more conservative than the Bears did, being that
Very
they punted
conservative.
8 times
Right.
and we only punted 3. In certain cases, we had to go for it, but you know, all things being equal, like you always think about that, like maybe if we would have, went for the points early in the game, then either we wouldn't have to play from behind, or we would have been close enough to where that goal line stand, we just kick a field goal and like play defense, and we end up winning
You could have
the game. So,
yeah.
I think the Bears are have laid a foundation. I mean, to do this and to go there to surprise everybody. What did I say at the beginning of the year? Did I say 9 wins?
You said they would finish over 500,
Over
so 9 and
500.
8. That's right. So you said
So
9 and 8 basically.
To be in a place where nobody would have even thought, that was not the expectation, which doesn't mean much to us as players or coaches. Our expectation is always Our goal is Super Bowl,
Of
but
course.
to build something. You know, Ben talks a lot about a special group. It's a special group within that locker room, and the thing now, as being on the sideline, seeing old teammates, but also talking to Ryan Poles, who was a teammate of mine, as a rookie
Yeah.
for a short time, but they're able to build from this, and he's built something while being there. But I mean, Caleb is a young second year quarterback going into third year. Ben Johnson is gonna be second year head coach, so he's got a year in this belt. Like, they have a lot to build off of. You still got Dennis Allen there, who was a head coach. He's got head coaching experience, but also defensive coordinator.
Hmm.
Eric Bieniemy was on the sideline. Got to talk to him and stuff before the game.
That's good.
Standing there with Mike Singletary. Uh, who was focused, by the way.
He was locked in.
He was locked in.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's just a great experience, but also just encouraging to know that the foundation has been set and laid, that you can really, really build off of this. And yeah, it's
That's good.
exciting to head into something like this next year. Not saying that just because and that's one thing I want to say too, really quickly, is that the past is not a predictor of the future when it comes to NFL. So past success doesn't always mean future success. But when you got guys like who I just mentioned, and the mentality that they have to really, try to go achieve greatness, the proof is there. The culture has been made, and some people, they're not going to come in and mess that up. They're going to come in and assimilate to that culture and say, hey, I got to raise my standard and play.
Yeah, once you build a winning culture, it's hard to accept anything less than that. And seen it with teams like Buffalo and Kansas City and the Eagles and some of these teams, even the Patriots, for 20 years, right? Like before
Yeah.
that, they were not a winning culture. And so it's got to start somewhere. Let me give you my analogy on Caleb, and you tell me if I'm way off. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit, so it might be before your time. But yeah, I know you played against this guy too. I remember when Brett Favre came into the NFL in his rookie year. He had some success, struggled a little bit with Green Bay, and Holmgren was their coach, early on, and they were kind of came together into the NFL. And Brett Favre was known as the gunslinger, right? But man, he was trick or treat Brett back in the early 90s. He won an MVP in 95. So his fourth year, I guess, as a quarterback. And then he won it, I think, 3 years in a row, went to a Super Bowl, and then eventually won it. But those first 2 years, you were like watching this guy and you thought, oh my gosh, this guy has so much talent. But sometimes he makes those throws. Sometimes he's doing something that's just like, oh, it makes you shake your head. To me, that's what Caleb Williams is right now. Caleb had a lot of success this year. He had some throws that you wish you could take back, like the pick. And I don't think that was Caleb's fault necessarily, but people are going to put on him that he threw 3 interceptions. He reminds me of young Brett Favre. And if he goes on the trajectory where we all think, because Brett Favre was so exciting when we first came into the league, but you could even hear Mike Holmgren say, no, Brett, no, Brett, no, Brett. Yes, 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 Brett, yes, Brett, no. It's like, oh my gosh. And he maintained that gunslinger mentality all the way till he retired, but he matured into the way where he was throwing less picks. He wasn't forcing throws, and he started to just kind of develop into this amazing Hall of Fame quarterback. I think Caleb's kind of on that trajectory where last year you saw, okay, he's got some work to do, very raw. This year you saw him take a big leap, but still have those tendencies. And I'm excited to see where he goes. Am I way off on that, or do you like that analogy?
No, I think that's fair, and I think that's an actual good comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you're compared to a Hall of Fame, anything that's a testament to what you're doing right now. But yeah, like gunslinger wise, I think he was, like, Ben has allowed him to be a little less gunslinger ish this year, into where he's probably told him, let's play within the system. You don't have to like make every single play a scramble, spin move, flip, do a hurdle, and then
Yeah.
do a 5-yard gain. He's like, sometimes you can just, throw it out of bounds or throw it at the receiver's feet, if it's a screen or something that gets locked up, or run for it, which he had an explosive run, yesterday, that toward the end of the game, that really made a difference. Um, but yeah, there's some certain things where it's like even on that fourth down, I was like, no, what are we?
What are
Oh
we doing? No,
yes,
no, no.
touchdown.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
those I think that's a great comparison or analogy when it comes to the style of play and the talent level and
The
the
arm
arm
strength.
talent,
Yes.
and but then how coaching can grow together with a player. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, so and it's obviously Caleb's got to do it for a couple more years here, and if it goes in the trajectory that Brett Favre went, this is going to be great for Bears and Bears fans and all the fans, who are rooting for Chicago and certainly in that locker room with Chicago. But yeah, I just think Caleb was great, and I think this was such a really good year for him, confidence wise, to say, look what we did with this team. And it's still within a system that the Bears have to figure out. I think they got a lot of excitement, as we kind of close the book on the
Hmm.
Chicago game. They got a lot of excitement to look forward to, I think, in 2026, and it'll be interesting to see, what moves they make and what little tweaks here and there they have to do for the team to improve and to get further. I mean, there were one bad throw or one bad route, if you will, away from being in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wow, right?
NFL is always a game of inches, as they say, and it's even closer than that. But
Yeah,
it's a game of opportunity and missed opportunities and matchups. So yeah, young team who's got the ability to grow and to get draft picks and free agency. And I mean, you look at what the rookies and the second year players have done, especially on offense. But I'm looking forward to them building up that defense and being able to just continue to build there. And speaking of that, there's some other teams that are going to have to make some adjustments in the offseason after this weekend's playoff games. And I know there are some teams that we want to talk about other than the Bears
of
and
course.
the Rams.
Well, we got to preview the NFC and AFC championship games too, which we'll do in a little bit. But let's do quick reaction here on the other game, which was New England Houston on Sunday. You picked Houston in that game,
Yeah,
and I kind of was leaning towards it. And I think I picked New England just because I was trying
yeah.
to be sort of a contrarian effort to what you were picking. But uh, it was snowing. It was kind of gross weather, and CJ just didn't have a good game, and he owned up. He owned up to that, and I felt bad for him. Houston's defense, I thought, played phenomenal. Like they got to Drake May, and they were harassing him, and it was really hard for New England to do anything on offense. But the picks, the turnovers, as you
Hmm.
mentioned with Chicago, it's hard to turn the ball over a lot. And New England held serve at home, and they go to an NFC or an AFC championship game again. It's like they're
Yeah,
back. It's New England again. It's like New England and Denver in the AFC championship. What year is this?
yeah,
2014,
yeah,
2013? So here we
yeah,
are again.
yeah. I chose Houston because I'm a big believer in playoff defense and these Super Bowl teams being able to run the ball and play defense. But whenever there's the turnover aspect that comes into the game, those things do change. And I thought that their defense was, I mean, their defense is amazing. I thought they was going to be able to get after, Drake May in a way that he may have not been used to. But when you turn the ball over, you give a short field to the other team.
Yeah.
Good teams are gonna capitalize on that and get points. And when unfortunately the offense does not come back with any firepower, able to overcome those interception, it's going to be hard to overcome 4 or 5 turnovers within the game. So,
Yeah.
yeah, CJ owned up to it. I think he's big enough and has the amount of character to say, yeah, yeah, I made those mistakes, and I think he will learn. Another young quarterback, I think CJ is going to learn from that experience to where it feels crappy, feels, you know, not good that you feel like you let your team down. I mean, you saw, as we'll talk about earlier, I mean, we'll talk about later, Josh Allen said the same thing. He felt
Mm-hmm.
like he let the team down. And that he, had the opportunity to do something um, where the pressure or the weight of the franchise was on his shoulders, and like you feel like you let everybody down, and that's hard to deal with. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Patriots going to another AFC Championship, and you know, I we'll talk about our predictions in a little bit.
Yeah, we will. But I think it's not going to be shocking if New England's in the Super Bowl based
Yeah,
upon who they're facing, not just Denver, but who they're facing at quarterback for Denver.
yeah.
I'll close it with this on that game. One really cool moment. We posted about it on our Instagram, our Sports Spectrum Instagram. Both D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud after the game both made sure they gave glory to God in that moment, in a loss, in a very tough, when your season's over, right? And you've been there many times, Matt, knowing whether it's regular season or in the playoffs, the sort of finality of a season being over is really hard because you put so much effort into a season and you spend every single day practicing, trying to get it right. You know, the camaraderie with your teammates, the highs, the lows, the injuries, the dings, getting nicked up every game. The fact that they were able to recognize that they were thankful in that moment and gave glory to God was pretty cool. I also noticed ESPN kept the broadcast going when the players gathered at the 50 for
Yeah.
the prayer, which I don't see that too often on too many broadcasts. So kudos to ESPN. And then they posted about it as well as Sports Spectrum on our socials, the actual gathering where there was a lot of guys, including Drake May and CJ Stroud, who were at the 50 in prayer. And they made sure they did that before they did any post-game interviews, which I thought was really neat. So a couple of moments there that I think kind of stand out from guys who are followers of Jesus. And it's one thing to say you're a Christian, but to live it out and to still give glory to God in defeat was pretty telling for me. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I love those moments like that because it really refocuses you on what matters most. There's a lot of things that this game offers. There's a lot of benefits to this game, and there's a lot of negative things that can come from this game, whether it be physical or spiritual. When we talk about identity, and I was happy to see even in the Seahawks game, as Sam Darnold is doing his post game interview. You got the ring behind him in the center of the field
Yeah.
doing the prayer, and you could see guys on a knee, giving glory to God after a game where, honestly, you put your body on the line out there, and there's many things that happen after the game to guys who play for a long time or even a short time where their career may be cut short that nobody thinks about in that moment. So God's grace is all upon us
Yeah.
to be able to walk off the field under our own strength, year after year. And it gives you a refocuses you on the bigger picture, which is a good thing to be able to do. And this is not a plug or shameless plug for the book, but that's the reason why I named the book, staying in the game, but making the most of every season being important, because you only get so many seasons. And the way you make the most of those depends on like your closeness to God and what you can hear him, telling you, and the discipline behind being obedient to his word. And sometimes, you may be obedient to God and it doesn't work out your way in what it is that you do. Therefore, he's trying to show us your identity is not in what you do. It's in who you are, who I've made you to be. And that's important. We're not just a football player. You're a child of God who has a purpose beyond your athletic ability. That's just something to help you to be able to glorify God on the platform that you have. So I'm so excited that, D'Amico, as a former player and a head coach now, can use that platform to glorify God, as well as the face of the franchise for the Texans in being the quarterback, that CJ Stroud could do that, as well as other guys.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I would love to try and get D'Amico on this show at some point in the off season. I think he'd be amazing to talk to. I got to meet him and interview him actually when he was an assistant with the 49ers when they were in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs back in 2020, actually, like February of 2020. And we asked him about his faith then. And so to see him kind of now 3 years as a coach and having a lot of success, and you know what, some fans and some pundits will say, no, they don't have a lot of, yeah, that's a lot of success. They
Mm-hmm.
got their first road win. They're playing, their defense is so good. And CJ, I think, will get better. I think he wants to get better. Hopefully that happens this offseason and he comes out ready to go next year. So yeah, that was really telling to see them give praise to God in a loss. Speaking of losses, let's go to the Saturday games because
Mm-hmm.
the Denver the Denver game against Buffalo
It was a wild game.
was a wild game as well. Maybe not as crazy as the ending to the Bears game, but pretty close. And
Maybe
you know,
not as crazy, but more controversial.
more
We'll say that.
controversial for
Yeah.
sure. The pick, the Brandon Cooks catch, we could spend an hour on that, Matt.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still think he caught the ball, but I
Mm-hmm.
understand the rule.
Yeah.
So, like carrying possession all the way to the ground. But to me, he
Mm-hmm.
had the ball, he went to the ground, and then he turned, and then the Broncos player grabbed the ball and they called it a pick. I don't know if it was. I wish you could go back and just say
Yeah.
incomplete, start over.
Yeah.
Like run the play again, but you couldn't because the ball never hit the ground.
Well, they have to. I think this is every time the playoffs, the season of playoffs comes, and there's a make or break play. The NFL has to reassess, and they have to clarify a rule better.
Yes.
Let's think about the Des Bryant catch no catch,
Yep.
or even not playoffs or like during the season with Calvin Johnson when we were playing them, and he catches it, comes down, but doesn't control the catch, and we end up winning the game because basically he like the ball slips out of his hand as he's trying to get up.
I remember that. Yeah.
So like the rules need to be clarified on that. Now this is a great opportunity for the NFL and Roger Goodell and them to really make a clear rule on. Okay, I've been a part of games where both guys catch the ball and they say, hey, the tie goes to the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And is that fair? I don't know who caught the ball first. Like, and then also you can see they both have like their hands on the ball as they're going down. Brandon Cooks has more of a catch on it, but they hit the ground and bounce, and it ends up coming like that amount of force. The ball is gonna he kind of ripped it out.
Yeah. Flipped
So
over.
is it a strip or is he down? It's not like one of the other ones they showed in one of the games. A guy caught it. He had a football move, which is what they say. He got 2 feet down, football move, and then the other guy kind of took it out after that. Now that's a little different than hitting the ground together and then the ball being come. So you got to make a rule that clarifies it. Like, hey, if they both come down like with the ball, and then the possession switches from one team to the other after they both hit the ground, I don't know. You got to make the call whether it's okay. We're gonna do when that happens. It's a tie, and you got to redo the down. Which I don't know if they would really do that, or they say, hey, you got to control possession all the way through, and if it switches possessions, then it's the other team's ball because it's so tricky.
Yeah, I think the NFL was hoping that it was just incomplete because it was impossible to make the right call. I don't know. You see these screen grabs on Twitter, and they're like,
and
look, his knees down with the ball.
It's easy to freeze it,
of
and
course,
to make your case, depending on what team.
But you can't.
You like yeah.
My buddy texted me, and he was like, we can't make judgmental NFL calls on screen grabs. You got to let the play out and see the whole totality of it. I felt bad for Buffalo, though. And obviously, as we're recording this, we just got the news that Sean McDermott got fired and is let go by Buffalo, which to me, that's shocking that the Bills are moving on from McDermott. I think he's a phenomenal coach, a great culture guy. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about him as a coach, as a person, as a believer in Jesus, too.
Yeah.
And, tons of success. Yes, they didn't make it to a Super Bowl, but they also didn't even win their division this year. So you can't blame this year, to me, on the coaching. And you got Josh there. And he's kind of that quarterback coach scenario that we were just talking about with Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren, and hopefully with Caleb and the Bears coach. So I don't know. What's your reaction to the Bears moving on? Because we did tease Tony Dungy's coming up. The Bills, the Bears are keeping their coach. The Buffalo Bills have let go of their coach, Sean McDermott. And we're going to talk to Tony Dungy on Friday this week. We recorded this before McDermott got let go, but we talked to Coach Dungy about all the coaching moves with John Harbaugh and all these people who were being let go that were solid, legendary coaches. And here's another one with Sean McDermott.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the analysis is by the front office is when they go into this, but it's similar to I take the McDermott Bills being able to fire him similar to John Harbaugh and the
Very
Ravens,
similar. Yeah.
because you look at that game, they missed the playoffs because they missed the field goal. Not that all of everything comes down to one play, but that's not a coaching failure or some sort of coaching inadequacy where you're like, yeah, we missed the playoffs. Um, we should get rid of them,
Yeah.
because the as we talked about, the matching of the head coach and the QB, and getting it right for both, it really is. That's a make or break thing for your organization, depending on, it can either upgrade you or put you behind for the years to come, depending on how long the coaching contract is or whatever.
Yeah.
And as I always say in the NFL, time is of the essence. You don't know how much longer Josh Allen is going to be Josh Allen as
Yeah.
well.
He'll be 30 years
Um,
old this year, I think.
you
Yeah.
don't know how much longer Lamar Jackson is going to be Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
They're still young relatively, but I'm saying, like, these things, the coach that you have and the system that you run really do matter in football. Um, you can be
Hmm.
a great player, and the system can not really accentuate or highlight the talent that you have sometimes. So it really does matter. So to be able, and obviously the turnover, I've been a part of the opposite, where within 8 years, three head coaches, three different GMs,
Yes.
just changing systems, five different offensive coordinators. Like, we never had any continuity at all. And it takes a long time to establish that. So a guy like Sean McDermott, who has had success, a lot of success with that team, to, play that game against Denver, and they be literally, right there within victory, and it just didn't shake in their way. It wasn't like he made bad coaching calls, didn't call a timeout at the right time, or
No.
decided to go for it on fourth and short and didn't get it, where they lost the game because they didn't convert that. It wasn't like that. It was some uncontrollable, from his point of perspective as a head coach, uncontrollable, um, actions that led to them being able. It was the play of the players. That's what I always say, is like, sometimes the coach takes the blame a lot,
Of course.
but you got to look at the full scope of the thing. Like, we got all the way here. I could see if they had a bad season, um, missed the playoffs by a mile, like weren't even a win, like we're under 500, didn't
Sure.
didn't win more games than they lost, then yeah, you could make a case for that. But to be in a divisional round game and it come down, and it's like, man, things didn't shake our way, and then you're going to revamp the whole organization because you got to get a new head coach and his whole new staff. So
Yeah. I don't like
I
the
don't
move.
agree with that
Yeah.
move.
I don't either.
But
Yeah.
it's an also I love Charlie, Reverend Dr. Charlie Dates always tells me this, because his mentor, Reverend Meeks, told him this: everything is spiritual. And I believe that too, because you can be and do the best you can at your occupation, your job, your vocation,
Yeah.
and still the world will want and require more of you. You could never satisfy that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could keep searching, and I mean, you could be Brady Belichick and win Super Bowl rings to fit on both hands, and then you lose one season, they're losing it, they're not good enough, and
Yep.
get fired. Like, it's never enough. So you should not look to be fulfilled or have the world's as the sufficiency for your life, because there's always going to be moves, and the Lord humbles us in different ways. Not saying that Sean needed to be humbled or John Harbaugh needed to be humbled or anything like that, but he does move us into places that, when we're obedient, it may seem countercultural, or it may seem opposite of what, like, God, what are we doing right now? I was successful. I'm doing what you want me to do. I'm leading men to Christ. I've seen Sean talk to his team about. I was at a chapel for the Bills, and he was in there.
Yeah.
So he's leading by example in that aspect too, of being a Jesus follower, and has spoken about it. And it's like, Lord, I'm doing these things right, but I get fired.
Hmm.
Kind of like what we talked with Tony, which you guys will hear Friday. He was a successful coach in Tampa, doing things that no Tampa Bay coach has ever done and got fired. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, Lord, what do we? But it may be a reassessment to move you to a place where he wants you to succeed here because you've submitted and you've like, I don't know what you're doing, but I have faith in you, God, that I know that you know better than I know.
So good. Yeah, I'll just throw this out. Sean McDermott was 98 and 50. 98 and 50 in his 9 years as a
Yeah,
head coach. He went 8-8 in the postseason, did not make a Super Bowl, two AFC Championship game losses to the Chiefs, 5 consecutive AFC East titles, and basically within, one long throw that could have been a catch and wasn't a pick from the Bills going to the AFC Championship game this year. So I don't know how you fire Sean McDermott, but they did. And it looks like, based upon Adam Schefter's report with ESPN, that he wants to continue coaching. So it wouldn't surprise me if, by the time this airs, or at least
yeah.
over the end of the week, McDermott's already on other teams' radars. And I don't know why Baltimore or Pittsburgh or somebody wouldn't look at him and be like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
we'll take him.
absolutely,
We'll take him.
absolutely.
So,
Because man, like if that play is different, and it's always ifs, but if that play is different and Buffalo beats Denver, AFC Championship, I think they beat the Patriots.
me too.
I think Josh Allen and them beat the Patriots and they go to the Super Bowl finally.
I agree.
But
I thought this was the
yeah,
year. That's why Josh Allen was crying after the
yeah,
game. I think is just so emotional because I think he really thought this was the year.
yeah,
They had a really good team, a really good shot, and a really, it was set up for them. But instead, we got Denver, and then Denver goes through an emotional high of winning that game, and then Bo
absolutely.
Nix is out,
Yeah,
broken ankle. Like I
yeah,
just felt so bad for Bo, and now it's Jarrett Stidham starting, in the AFC Championship game at home against New England. It's crazy.
yeah. And I think and I love that the NFL. And that's why people love the NFL too. It is almost it's parallel to life. Football really does, like sports in general, give you a great outlook on some of the positive things that will work in life, like some of the biblical principles. You reap what you sow.
Yep.
So in sports, you work hard, you're going to be a good athlete. If you match the talent with the dedication and the work ethic and all that, like what you've planted is going to grow. But it also doesn't always work like that in everyday life. You can do the things right, like we were just talking about. You can be a good person and treat people right and go to church and read your Bible and do. That does not mean that you're a get out of jail free card from persecution. Like
That's
in
right.
fact, it says, those who Paul says is those who desire to live a godly life will be persecuted. Like
Yes.
that's what's going to happen. So in the NFL, it's the same way, man. Like those who want to be great, those who want to chase championships and actually put the dedication in, there's going to be disappointment in it.
Yep.
But I think the Lord teaches us great lessons in this if we can get it right, that life is so much bigger than sports, it's so much bigger than football, and disappointment comes, but where's your joy? Where, happiness is in winning the game, winning the playoff game. Sadness, oh, we lost the game. Life can't be so fickle like
Yes.
that. You got to have some kind of internal sufficiency in Christ, some kind of joy that sustains you, win or loss. I remember even with the Bears loss, like I remember coming home from games feeling like that, NFC Championship, coming home feeling terrible. It's like, man, what? And then you walk into the parking lot and my family's sitting there waiting. I'm like, but those people love me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So and then seeing my kids' faces after the game, they don't know whether I won or lost. They like, hey, Daddy, I haven't seen you for 4 hours.
Yeah. Let's
Uh,
play. Yeah.
let's
Let's go.
play.
Let's go play. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yep.
like, not to minimize the game, but on the grand scale of things, God is so good that He does give us this opportunity to enjoy something like this in order to shine a light on Him. And I think I hope that Sean McDermott has been enough of a positive influence so that a guy like Josh Allen will understand that too. Yeah, it may hurt right now, but use it and use it for the next opportunity.
And I think he will. I think the people behind the business part of the NFL are what we see as fans watching them on the field. That's real. I'm so glad I'm a part of this ministry and get to work with you, but also get to be around our PAO NFL community, because you see guys that are real people with their wives, with their families, with their kids, and it's suddenly that's why I felt so bad for Bo Nix. I felt so bad for C.J. Stroud, even Brock Purdy with the Niners lost to the. See, I just felt bad knowing these guys and being around them, because they're real people and they do
Hmm.
put a lot of work into it, and it stinks when you lose. But I also know, like you said, that their identity is found in Christ, and so they're able to move on from that while still being a competitor and understanding that there's more important things, and that our joy isn't found in circumstantial things that happen in our lives, whether it's high or low. So
Hmm.
and Bo Nix, man, felt so bad for
Yeah.
him, but Bo's going to be okay. And I thought it was really telling that their coach said right after the game when he announced it, Sean Payton was saying, this is what happened with Bo and he's going to be out for the year. But he talked about Bo being a faithful man and that God has a plan. And I thought, look at Bo Nix having an impact on his own head coach right there and living out his faith. And I just thought that was really telling to me that some of these guys who are living for the Lord are making impacts within their
Yeah.
locker room, even in a moment like that where you broke your ankle and you're done for the year.
Yeah. The cliche saying of the Lord works in mysterious ways is a saying,
It's true.
not because someone made it up, is because it's true.
Yeah.
And yeah, you feel terrible. Like, man, you put yourself in that position. If you look at Bo Nix has been playing amazing, and your team wins, and you're headed to the AFC Championship. Matter of fact, hosting,
Right.
in your home at your home stadium, and you're a young quarterback too. You start to think of all. Your mind gives you those negative thoughts. Man, when's the next time I gotta have surgery? First of all, am I gonna recover from this the same, or is this gonna hinder me? When's the next opportunity that I'm gonna be able to go and get and play in an AFC championship? You're missing out. I'm not with my guys, you know, and the Lord would use that in order to draw you closer to himself. And it's just the way that these things go. You can never predict an unpredictable God in the way that he operates and moves things, because he has God is outside of time. He's already seen this. He's already written it down in the book of life. What's going to happen? It's up to us, and he gives us the grace to have free will to choose and make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty awesome that on the way to destiny meaning God's plan for you, what he already has set up for you, but you have to go get it. That's everywhere in the Bible, Old Testament and New. You look at the promised land, it was secular people who don't even follow God, the enemies of Christ, enemies of Israel. They planted the seeds, grew the plants, built the houses, all that, and Israelites, it's your land. You just got to go take it. And all of the ones that were fearful didn't even get to go see it. But the two that were confident and said, hey, I got faith that God is he's bigger than these giants that are down there. And they go and get the promised land. So on the way to destiny, whatever God has for you, there's always going to be disappointment first. Can we overcome the disappointment? You know, and can we be satisfied with what God has in place? He may not have a championship. I didn't play in a Super Bowl. I didn't have get a ring, none of that. Will we be sufficient? Will it be enough to say, yeah, I didn't, win a Super Bowl or do these things, but God, I've done some great things under your power to allow me to do them. And I think that is the point that we got to get, and we got to understand earlier.
Yeah, it's so good, Matt. Now it's Jared Stidham's turn to come
Hmm.
in, and people are like, "Who?" And I actually was like, "Who?" I had to do a little research because he hasn't thrown a pass in a few years. Let's go into prediction mode right now. But the first game is Denver, and by the way, don't count out the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a backup quarterback, but they're home. They play really good defense. They're home. I'll say it again, which
Mhm.
they're really good at home, and they can run the ball. And they have Sean Payton, who knows how to
Yeah.
do things in this league, and he's done it for a long time. So Broncos hosting the New England Patriots AFC Championship game. What are you thinking, Matt Forte?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good matchup because of that defense that the Broncos have, them being at home. And I think they're being counted out. as well. They're counting them out as far as um, Bo Nix being gone, but Sean Payton is a quarterback guru, if you want to give him that. Um, Certain people have come to him and been able to, their careers have taken off when it's come to being coached by him and his offensive system. But you match a guy like Sean Payton in that offense and his system, and he's wise as a coach,
Yes, he
and
is.
and then you match that ball hawking defense that they don't give up a lot of anything. Um, it could be a long day if they start getting after Drake May. But I guess I have to go. I'm going to predict and go with the Patriots going in there because they have their full starting crew, um, and that they travel well. I don't think they're afraid of going into Denver.
Undefeated
And
on the road this year, by the
yeah,
way. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yep.
they've done a great job on the road this year, and being that they just faced a really good defense in the Houston Texans. So I think I'm going to go with the New England Patriots making another Super Bowl appearance this year. And
I uh, I will agree with you. I think New England's going to win as well, but I think it's going to be really close, and I think Denver is going to show out and perform well. I just think they don't have enough firepower. When you lose a Bo Nix, I think it's really hard to overcome that. And New England played, like I said, really well on the road this year, and here we go. Like Patriots back
Mhm.
in the Super Bowl, so I think that was what we'll see as well. NFC, we didn't talk about the Seahawks much. I don't think there was a whole lot to talk about because
Yeah, it was a
they
beat down.
they beat down San Francisco and they got an extra day's rest,
Yeah,
got to watch the Rams battle and struggle, if you will, against the Bears. And now they get to host the NFC Championship. That's the late game, 6:30 Eastern on Fox. And it's the Seahawks against their rival, the Rams. The last time they played, it was a Thursday night game, and the Seahawks won by going for two in overtime late in the game to get that win. And that is pretty much what flipped this game being in Seattle and not in Los Angeles this
yeah,
Sunday. And now we get a rematch. What do you think, Matt?
yeah. I mentioned earlier in the before the playoffs started when the seeds came out and seeing that Seattle had the number one seed, I was like, it's going to be tough to beat Seattle in
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, especially when you get a bye. The first week, and basically you got to win two games to get to the Super Bowl. And man, they demolished San Fran. They beat down an already beat down team, um, which they've had a ton of injuries. Which I don't know if you've seen it. There's a lot of talk about that low frequency, uh, you know, plant that is next to their practice field.
I have seen that. Yeah, in
And
San
I think
Francisco.
it's
Yeah.
legit. I think it's legit because of how they talked about the low frequencies of electromagnetic waves deteriorates cartilage and over time tendons and things, and they've had the most soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, ACLs, uh,
Hmm.
Achilles. That's not normal. And I know one thing is if this comes to light and how it is coming to light, and if I'm a player, I'm like, we got to figure something out because
Yeah.
you're putting your body at more of a heightened risk already than playing football. But
Yes.
um, the Seattle Seahawks I mean, you got my boy Leonard Williams anchoring the D line. You got um, Demarcus Lawrence out there, man. I mean, the way that Julian Love, another great guy. They
Mm-hmm.
are playing, what do they call them? The dark side.
Yeah.
When your defense gets named, when we played, it was the Legion of Boom, and they had Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, and they had Richard Sherman, and Bobby Wagner, all these guys, and they were legit. And I think this defense is just as good, if not better, than they are. But I mean, they played on all cylinders. Special teams returning the kickoff. When they returned the kickoff, it was like the game is going to be over.
It was a
With
wrap after 20 seconds. I know. It's crazy. So who's your prediction? You taking Seattle?
Yeah, I'm taking Seattle. I think Seattle is gonna um, put create some havoc for a guy in Matt Stafford, who's got to prepare for them. Yes, I know McVay is gonna analyze them and be ready and all that. I just think that their defense is powerful enough. But I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a beatdown like we saw last week. In the fact that people underestimate the Rams' defense. I think they're really good. Even though you got Sam Darnold, who's been playing lights out this year too, dealing with a little oblique injury, which seemed like he was pretty good pain wise going through it. So
Yeah.
a lot of guys are fighting injuries at this point. It's late in the season, but I think Seattle is going to be in the Super Bowl. It's going to be the matchup of or the rematch of when it was the Patriots versus Seattle a few years back when
Super
they
Bowl
should have ran the
49.
ball.
Yeah, that was the Marshawn Lynch give him the ball instead. Russell Wilson threw it,
Yeah.
and the Patriots intercepted it. I think it was Malcolm Butler, and
Yep.
one of the great Super Bowls, 28-24 New England. So I'm going to go the other way, just to so
Mm.
we're different here. I'm going to say the Rams carry the momentum of survival, if you will, beating Chicago. And I've seen teams do this where they just need to survive, and then the next week, it's like nothing can phase them. It's gonna be really hard to go up to Seattle and win. But I'll say the Rams because I felt like they were on a Super Bowl path for a good part of the year, and so destiny kind of fulfills that. And we'll say the Rams beat Seattle in Seattle. Both teams win on the road, New England and the Rams, and then we get a rematch of a Super Bowl a couple years later, which was one of the most horrible Super Bowls to ever watch. And just being honest, when the Patriots beat the Rams, I think it was Super Bowl 50. I want to say it was 52 or
Mm.
53. I got to go do my math there, but it was 2018 when the Patriots won. I think it was 13-3. They beat the Rams
Yeah.
in McVay's first or second year as a coach. So little rematch. We're getting a Super Bowl rematch either way if New
Yeah.
England wins. And if Denver wins, we'll get a Super Bowl rematch against Seattle, and then the Rams and Denver would be interesting as well. But I'm going to say the Rams win. I got Rams Patriots. You got Seahawks Patriots when we head out to San Francisco. And a week from today, we will break down the conference championship games. And then 2 weeks from today, basically, we'll be out there in San Francisco gathering tons of content and ready for Super Bowl 60 on February 8th, which is coming
That's right.
very soon, Matt Forte.
Yes, sir.
Very soon. All right, let's close it out with what you learned at church. I know you were able to go to church before the Big Bears game.
Yeah.
What did you learn at church, Matt Forte?
Yeah. Church was amazing as always. It's always a blessing when you're able to go and f- you know worship God first before all the festivities of the whole city being, oh man, excited about the Bears game. So to refocus on what's most important was
Oh,
always
yeah.
good. But Reverend Dr. Charlie Days came from 2 Kings chapter 6. And it's the first, I think, 6 or 7 verses where a lot of young men who basically who kind of were kind of analogizing them towards young people going towards the ministry, going to be preachers, and they needed a place to live, so they they asked Elisha, and it was like, look, we should build these cabins or whatever for us to live. And Elijah was like, yeah, like go ahead. And what he pointed out first was it was amazing that the young people went to the man of God who represents God. He's not God, but he represents God because he's a man of God.
Mm.
And they submit themselves unto leadership and say, hey, like, should we do this? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And then they're obedient in that aspect. They humble themselves in obedience to say, yeah, let's do it. And they don't just ask him for his wisdom, they ask him to come with them. And so he was trying to make a testament to the culture today. Older people, well, younger people shouldn't be so arrogant that we think old people or older people don't know anything, or that we know that we're wise in our own eyes, basically. Seek those who have been around twice as long as you, here on this earth, that have been through some stuff, experienced a lot of things, and seek wisdom from them too. And be humble enough to ask and say, I need help with this, or can you teach me something? And also the older generation not being like these younger kids are washed, like there's no hope for them, but being willing to go impart that wisdom on them. and not just giving up on people like some, oh, these young people today. Well, how are they going to learn if the older people don't, impart the wisdom on them?
Yeah.
So he goes with them, and basically the name of the sermon was "Still I Rise." Being that Maya Angelou's poem "Still I Rise," but also being that we're coming up on Black History Month, and also it was Martin Luther King's birthday, weekend,
Yeah.
and you know, it's a great reminder of being able to rise, because in this particular passage they're using an axe with you know an axe head, which in those days and time, the material that was what it was made out of was very expensive. So they had to borrow it. It was borrowed. And so the guy's, cutting, and the axe head flies off and goes into the water. And obviously it's heavy. It's used to cut trees down, and it's expensive material. So it sinks. And that's a debt that that guy, he's like, I'm in ministry. Like, I don't make a lot of money. I don't do, I can't pay that back. And so the sermon was based off of getting out of debt.
Hmm.
And what he was saying was that the guy goes to Elijah, like, look, the axe head flew off into the water. Elijah breaks a stick, throws it in the water, and the axe head rises. And so it's like, wait, what? Wait, let me reread that. What just happened? Yeah, like it's an axe head. It's heavy. It's gonna go in the water. It doesn't float. But he throws the stick in there, and obviously that's impossible, right? These things are impossible, but with God, all things are possible, right? So there's certain times and certain things where things make no sense, but with God, it does make sense. He throws a stick in there, and it supernaturally reconnects and rises, and he says, grab the axe, and he's able to continue working, and also to restore the debt that would have incurred. He would have never been able to repay that. And I think that's a double entendre, as we might say, that we have a debt that we could never repay. We all have a debt, and we get out of that sin debt because of what Jesus paid for us on the cross. And the amazing thing, I think, the last point of the story of this sermon was that we have a debt that we owe, and that Jesus pays it all. But oftentimes God will take us back to where we lost something and restore it.
Hmm.
He took him exactly back to where he lost the axe head, and was able to restore that and restore him so that he wouldn't be in the bondage of debt his entire life. God doesn't want us to live in debt. And it's also a message to not live outside of our means. Just because you make $100,000 a year doesn't mean you got to spend $100,000. Just
Yeah.
because you may make whatever amount you make doesn't mean you need to spend over that. And as soon as you make something, it's wise to save. And it's just a lesson between how to live life within the means that God has given us, that He'll supply all our needs, but also that He has sufficiently supplied our need, because there's a debt that we all owe that we could never pay. And it was a amazing sermon to show that where we lost something, God will oftentimes take you exactly to that place to restore it. And I think that's an amazing lesson, because that's a lesson for this past weekend. A lot of the guys who lost a game or lost something or lost, even in an injury with Bo Nix, who knows? We may be talking about this next year. God will take people back to where they lost something and actually restore it. So we'll
Hmm.
see what happens.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder. The debt that's paid by Jesus going to the cross can't be mentioned enough. And you can mention this to every time we talk, Matt. Every time I go to church, if somebody wants to mention that, my pastor mentions it every week. The gospel. I mean, it's just a great reminder that it reminds me of Amazing Grace, right? I once was lost and now I'm found. I once was blind and now I see. And the reason I am found and the reason that I see is because the debt that I had accumulated based upon being born into this sinful world, and Jesus paid for it. Like he
Yeah.
took it, and now I can see, and now I'm
Yeah.
found, and it's such a great reminder.
Yeah, we can't mention that enough. I always say we don't want to water down what Jesus did on the cross and
No.
paying for all of humanity's sin, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Like that's a heavy burden to bear, and the graciousness to do it. And Dr. Charlie Dates talked about this as well, in the fact that we're all lost, or we're lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were all lost, and some people still are lost. But when you find your way, and you seek God, and you're allowed to find your way, we don't just say, "Hey, I'm good." Like everybody else got to worry about themselves. We we uh we go and grab others and bring them with us, right? And he likened it to Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman found her way to freedom, which we also learn about, during Black History Month and things like that.
Yeah.
Used the Underground Railroad and these things and all that, but she found her way to freedom and went back 13 times. Like, first of all, to escape enslavement is one crazy thing, and to have the nerve to do it because you're putting your life on the line anyway, because if you're caught, but to go back 13 times and say, hey, I know the way to freedom. Y'all want to be free,
Yeah.
and
Come
to
on.
go get people and bring them with them. The selfishness of how today's culture is, like, I doubt someone would find it and be like, they're not going back. But that's how
Yeah.
we all are lost. And once it's not that we find God, it's like God didn't move. We've often moved somewhere else.
Yeah.
But once you are allowed to see, and once was blind, now I see, are we going to help others to see?
Yeah. It's part of the Great Commission, right? Not to just go
Yeah.
and make disciples, but bring them along, man. Um, Disciple is learner, right? Disciple is being someone who is going to be taught, and someone who disciples is a teacher. It's not converting people. It's
Hmm.
Christ's job to save people, not us. Bring them along. Bring them along. Sometimes it's simple as inviting somebody to church. Bring them
Hmm.
along to church and let them hear the gospel and let the Lord move in them the way they need to. Good stuff, Matt Forte. We got a big week. Matt, on Friday, Tony Dungy joins us. It's great to have Coach back. I know it's the first time you interviewed him on Sports Spectrum, so I'm excited for people to hear that. We do have some wonderful stories from Coach Dungy, including some Super Bowl stories, which was a lot of fun to hear him share. Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco is on NBC this year, so you'll see a lot of Coach Dungy over the next few weeks with the Super Bowl coverage. And then a week from today, we're breaking down the AFC and NFC Championship game and looking ahead to Super Bowl 60. We'll know who's participating. We won't do as much of a preview of Super Bowl 60 next week. That'll be for the following week. I think when we get out to San Francisco, we'll be able to break down Super Bowl 60 in the way that we break it down, both faith and football.
Yeah.
So appreciate you, Matt. This is going to be really interesting to watch these conference championship games, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
Yes, sir. It's been another good Tuesday morning running back, and continuing to faithfully look towards the continuation of the season and all the excitement. So appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been Tuesday morning running back.
See y'all.